Let me ask you something. When you think about your younger self, the version of you that just discovered financial independence, what's one truth that you wish you had back then?
And it would probably be that freedom isn't about a number. It's about control. Control of your time, your energy, your choices. And no one really tells you that at the beginning.
That's exactly what I found. So many people come to financial independence thinking that it's just about retiring early, sitting on a beach, or escaping from the job that they hate. But we found over 100 episodes of doing this together that is so much deeper than that.
This episode is a special one. Not because we've hit some fancy milestone, but because we're taking it back to the roots. The real reason why we started the Fi Guys, and the core beliefs that still guide everything we do.
Whether you've been riding with us since day one, or you just found us, this episode is where we break down the pillars of financial independence that actually matters. The ones that have helped real people build real freedom in their life.
Plus, we're going to be sharing some hard-earned lessons and a few things we've changed our minds on, and even some behind-the-scenes stories that, to be honest, we've never told you.
Yeah, this isn't just a recap, it's a reminder that you don't have to settle, that you can design the life that works for you, not just a job that you hate that pays the bills.
So let's dive into what 100 episodes has taught us about financial independence.
Dom, can you believe that this is our 100th episode, not even including the 5 Friday feedbacks? So today for this special episode, I thought we'd start somewhere special, somewhere at the beginning, and why we started the Fi Guys. Do you remember that day when we first met?
I do remember that day. It was a very interesting day. Met with a lot of different characters, I'll say. And at the end of that list, it's like, hey, I'm walking into this guy's office. I'm like, man, who is this guy? He a little bit quiet, but very knowledgeable. Got him talking about podcasting and finance. And, to be honest, and I want to be honest because we're doing a little bit behind the scenes. I did ask Chris, this is in the early days. I was like, got any stocks you would recommend or something like that? And I don't know if you remember me saying that, but I think that's so funny. Because now we've come so far. I've come so far from as being like the student in this student in the master situation. Now I know, like, that's just such a silly question. It's such a beginner entry level, like get rich quick question. And I remember that day vividly. I remember it like it was like a month ago, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, and then I remember, some things went down, and then you and I, we met for coffee one day, and we sat down and we talked about the podcast, and then I think you were just so like gung-ho. We went back to your house. We started working on stuff immediately, and then from there, probably a week later, we had the Fi Guys up and running, and that's been our thing from the whole beginning. And I want to talk about what frustrated us and what we thought was missing from the financial independence space and why we started everything. I know for me, whenever I listen to podcasts and I listen to them religiously, it's too much focus on the numbers, on this is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. This is what you need to do, have to do to be financially independent, to be good with money. And something that I really wanted to bring to the podcast, and I was so glad that you agreed with it, is that there is no prescriptive. We're not telling people what you have to do. We're telling what you ought to do, what you should do, but not what you have to do in order to be successful, because there are a million different lives, infinite number of lives being lived right now, and they're all different. And to say that there's only one way never works.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that we started this podcast, and if you stuck with us since the beginning, I know there's a few of you that have stuck with us to the beginning. I've got a buddy of mine, he takes notes on every episode, and I just love that, right? I might have to buy it off him, and then just like, hey, well, why don't you just throw this in ChatGPT, make a book out of it or something. But the financial space, when it comes to education, is one of the most frustrating places on the internet, especially going from someone who didn't know much, who thought he knew everything, then humbled himself and knows he knows nothing, right? Even yesterday, I was on one of the social medias, I think it was TikTok, and this guy was giving financial advice. And it was some of the worst advice I think I've ever heard. It was like talking about cashing out your credit cards, taking money out of the credit card and getting cash for it and putting it down onto this investment. I'm like, that's terrible. That's genuinely bad. So our podcast is designed to really get to the root of the problem when it comes to finances, while also giving great advice. But like you said, Chris, I love that. It's like nothing we say you should do, but you ought to do, right? And I love that. And I love our spin on finance and philosophy and our pop culture references every now and again. You got to add those in. We're only human. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the first 100, and I'm even more excited for the next 100. So let's keep it going.
Yeah. Let's keep it into it. Before we get into it, I want to reiterate our mission in plain language. And that's that we believe that financial independence is about living on your own terms, not just about early retirement. We are an offshoot from the FIRE movement. FIRE is financial independence, retire early. That's where I started in this journey because I thought I wanted to retire early. I thought that working was a fool's errand. And it wasn't until I reached Coast Financial Independence where I realized I didn't have to work anymore. I could have worked at McDonald's or wherever, not really making a lot of money, but enough money to support my needs that I thought, okay, good. I can retire. I'm good. And I realized at that point that none of that meant anything if you didn't understand why you were doing it. You have to be running towards something, not away from something. And that's something we've tried to reiterate again and again on the podcast. But before we move on to more of the philosophical discussions, we can table that till Friday's podcast. What I want to talk about is the core pillars of financial independence, 5 core pillars in specific that we've really found that helps. We've covered a lot, but these are some of the timeless truths that I found just keep coming up again and again and again over, almost 200 podcasts when you include our Friday episodes.
Yeah, I'm excited. These core pillars, I mean, this wasn't, it wasn't conjured out of thin air, right? This is coming from over 200 episodes. This is coming from a decade of experience from Chris, right? In this space. So please, in the next 15, 20 minutes, take notes, lock in, eliminate distractions, right? This might be the most valuable 20 minutes of your day, of your week, maybe your life. I don't know. Depends on your life. Hopefully this is not the most valuable 20 minutes of your life. I hope you're living a better life than this life.
Yeah. If it is, I'm really sorry.
Get off the pod, go travel to like Europe or something, go to Italy, fall in love with someone, make pizzas, like go live a better life. Like hopefully this isn't the best 15 minutes of your life, hopefully, but maybe it's the best 15 minutes of your day and the most valuable part of your week. So Chris, back to you. What are these core pillars of financial independence?
So pillar number 1, clarity over confusion. One of the biggest things that I find as a financial coach, as a financial advisor, as a financial consultant, is that people don't know their numbers. They don't know their goals, and they don't know the reason why behind everything.
Interesting. Do you find that even people who are smarter, who are knowledgeable, who have their life together, even struggle with this, right? It's not just the people who are there just like new to this. Everyone struggles with this, right?
Yeah, I mean, even I struggle with this. I think there's different levels to it, right? The knowing your numbers part, that normally comes from fear. It comes from, I don't want to know what's behind the curtain. It's scary back there. What's inside the dark? I don't know. So I'm just not going to look at it. And not knowing your numbers, that's typically something that you find with people who are at the beginning of their journey. They're just getting started. And then you'll find people that are quote unquote successful from the outside looking in, who I also coach, I work with. And you'll find that they are often setting for the wrong goals. Yeah, they're making a lot of money. Yeah, everything's going well from the outside looking in, but they don't feel happy because maybe the goals they set for themselves was never actually the right goal for them. And the final thing is because they never knew their why. They never knew why they were trying to achieve what they were trying to achieve. So that's the reason that pillar number 1 is clarity over confusion. Too much of us, we go through our life in this habitual pattern of reactivity where we're just kind of, something happens, I react. Something happens, I react. But we're never actually thinking about, why do I react that way? We take things and we see things and we have the immediate response that we have. It's a feeling, good, bad, neutral. And we take that as truth without ever asking, why do I think the way that I think? Why do I react the way that I react? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it because it's something that's actually increasing my life, making me a better person, helping me make the world a better place? Or is it just because of my childhood, my upbringing, my genetics, something outside of my control? Regardless if we have free will or not, the only thing that we do know is that we exist. So let's pretend as if we do have free will. Regardless if you do or don't, it's your job to try to make the world a better place.
I think a lot of people can relate to that reactionary tendency, especially in today's polarizing world, right? With politics, with economy, everything's just right there, right in your face, 24/7. And I know for myself, sometimes it's hard to get out in front of it. But could you talk to us a little bit real quick about why finding your why is so important? And what does that mean for your journey?
The journey of life, the journey of financial independence, any journey that you decide to take on, it's scary. When you stand at the precipice of jumping off of the cliff, when you stand at the precipice of leaving the Shire, of leaving Tatooine, of leaving wherever it is that you're going to go on a new adventure, you don't know what is going to what dragons you're going to face along the way. People that go into things hoping that my motivation is going to just carry me through, motivation works for a little while, but motivation wanes. It's the why, the challenge, the reason that you want to do something that's going to get you through the hard times. Because too many people, when they plan for life, when they plan for their financial journeys, when they plan for what's going to happen when they have kids, when they buy their house, whatever, they plan with everything going the right way. Maybe if you're lucky, they'll say like, okay, like maybe we'll have a little bit of issues here, but life is going to throw bigger and bigger issues at you over and over and over again. The Buddha said the first noble truth is that all life is suffering. You will suffer. I guarantee it. And that why, the important part of why am I doing this? Why am I choosing to suffer in this way is what's going to get you through the hard times. Because I promise you the hard times are coming.
And there's a quote that we oftentimes reiterate here on the podcast, right? A strong why can bear any how. I don't know how I'm going to do this. The house is burning. My kids are inside. I don't know how I'm going to do this. No. The house is burning. Anyhow. Something powerful, right? And usually, Chris, and I'm sure you can feed off this as well, but usually your why isn't solely connected to you. Usually it's bigger than you. Usually it's attached to, hey, I want to get my family out of generational debt. Right? I want to put my kids up so, when Christmas comes around, they don't get one gift. They get 10 gifts. Or maybe it's not materialistic like that. Maybe it's something bigger, right? But grounding your why in something that is bigger than yourself is a great start.
100% agree. We can do a lot for ourselves, but what we do out of love for other people, for society, for animals, whatever it is that you love, that's what pushes you through when it gets really, really hard, that you're doing it for something larger than yourself. Because my estimation of life is to work in service of growing yourself, but more important, work in service of growing other people, other things, other conscious beings. I'd like to move on to pillar number 2. Pillar number 2, when this is directly related to finance, since of course we are the Fi Guys, is spending intentionally. And pillar number 1 was all about clarity over confusion, because pillar number 2 feeds right off of that. We need to align our spending with our values, with our goals, with our why. We want to be, I always like to say like this, it's frugality without deprivation. We're not cheap. We're not even, I don't want to say frugal, we're valuists. We spend money where we find to be important. We don't just go through life spending money because that's how my neighbor spent money, or that's how my mom and dad spend money, or this is how my friends spend money. We spend money based off what brings us value. We spend intentionally to let us live the life that we see is best for us. And we leave whatever people think outside, whatever they might judge for you buying, whatever they might judge for you not buying. That's external to you. That doesn't matter, because you're choosing a path of financial independence that is unconventional. You doing this is different than the norm. I have a poster that hangs in my gym that I look at every day that I go into it. And it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it says, the worst thing I can be is just like everyone else. And that's what this path of financial independence is. Yes, there is a community of people that, we have helped to grow, and there are other communities just out there that are different. And I would say maybe 1 to 2% of Americans, of people in the world, are pursuing financial independence. They're not just on the hamster wheel of life, hoping that one day the government or Elon Musk or somebody will come down from the heavens and bash them with money so they don't have to worry about it. How many people have I met in my life that when you say, hey, what's your plan for retirement? They're like, oh, I don't know. I'll deal with that when I get there. And Dominic, what's that quote that you like to say?
There's so many. Are we talking about the education quote?
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
That's the one. I was like, man, don't put me on the spot for the, action without education. I was like, I'm going to butcher it. Don't do it on the 100th episode. Don't do it to me, Chris. No, but it's true. It's true. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? It's common sense. It's just common sense. Things, and I hate to do this to you guys. I don't want to do this to you guys. I really don't want to stress you out. I don't want to hurt you, right? But things will not just fall into place. On the other note, the plan and the execution is not as scary as it sounds. It's not as scary as it sounds. And, you know, you might be closer than you think to success or failure, but you'll never know if you don't at least look into it. You know, it kind of cracked me up when you were talking, and you're like, you know, when I walk into my gym, I see the Arnold Schwarzenegger post. You know, the worst thing I can be is like anyone else. And I was like, just thinking about mine. I'm like, in my gym, I'm like, that's weird. I don't have that post. I got like the cat hanging off the tree. It's just like, hang in there. I don't know. I got a different gym. Let's go to a different gym or something. I don't know. I got to upgrade my posters. Yeah, hang in there. But anyway, so that was pillar number 2, spending intentionally, right? And this kind of all starts with, not all starts, but it definitely helps when you have a budget, right? You got to know what's coming in, what's going out. So we definitely highly recommend that. But this is kind of not level 1 stuff we're talking about here. This is kind of a level 2, level 3, right, Chris? Or where would you kind of put this on the knowledge scale?
For spending intentionally?
Just like the 5 pillars so far. Like, where should someone be in this journey to kind of start applying these things?
I think this is the foundation.
Foundation, perfect.
This is the foundation. And the spending intentionally is the only one that we have that is, it's really just knowing yourself. All of this stuff is know thyself. You know, it's all Socrates, know thyself. And every time that we say it and people are like, I don't understand what they're saying. Of course I know me. Do you really? Yeah. So pillar number 3, income is just a tool, not an identity. This is one thing that I hated about other financial podcasts. It was all about how much money do you have? How much money are you making? All of these things. There's one thing that I like about our podcast. Every time that we have a guest on, as soon as I'm done with the interview, as soon as we click off, they go, man, that podcast was something completely different than I've ever done in a financial podcast. Because we're trying to take the money part of it out of there and make it about the human being, the person behind the money. Yes, the money is important. Money is important in this world. I'm never going to sugarcoat it and say that it's not. Your side hustle, your career, if you're an entrepreneur, all of those things are wonderful, but they are not your identity. You are so much more than the number in your bank account, the number in your investment account. You are all of it together. So we need to break free from our job titles. We need to break free from the careers that we are, because you aren't that person. And if you build your whole identity on how much money you make or what job you currently have, you're building your foundation on sand. Build your foundation of who you are based off who you are internally. And it all goes back to pillar number 1, clarity over confusion. Know yourself, know your why, know everything by constantly questioning.
I love that. And, you know, it's most of life's problems can be solved by knowing yourself. And, you know, if you've listened to our podcast for a while, you know, you've probably heard us talk about how do you find yourself? How do you learn who you are? It's such a strange thing to ask. Who do you even go to ask those things? Like, you know, if you go, maybe if you're like me, maybe if you're like some of us, right? You go to your parents, be like, who am I? You're like, you smoking crack again? Huh? What's going on here? You doing drugs? Cut the drugs out, man. That's such a bizarre question, but it's a question that you can't ask someone else. I can't go to Chris and be like, Chris, who am I? It's like, dude, bro, I don't know. You ask yourself the question. You look yourself in the mirror. Who am I? What have I become? Where am I going? And I know for Chris, you know, and myself, right? It's easiest to find yourself when doing difficult things or when you're meditating and there's just nothing, just pure nothing. No, you know, rain noise on Spotify, no, you know, just nothing. You're just with yourself. So knowing yourself is genuinely, would you agree with this, Chris? Knowing yourself is maybe half the battle,
If not more, if not like 80% of the battle. Like, okay. I think it's really difficult. Well, maybe we could talk more about this on Friday's podcast, but we are a society, a world of people that don't know themselves. And we're afraid to find that person. We're afraid to sit down with that person because what if we don't like that person? So what we do is we go around and we seek approval from other people that don't know themselves to say, am I good? Am I worthy? Am I right? You, by the benevolence of you just being born, have a right to be here. Let's move on to pillar number 4. Again, this is a big financial one. So I went wide finance. Number 4 is automation and simplicity. Systems beat willpower. Auto investing, spending tools, aka budgeting tools, calendar reminders, getting your dumb mind out of the way and letting the numbers and everything else focus on themselves. One thing that I don't like about other podcasts is that they talk so much about what you can do, how you can be better, how you can beat the market, how you can do all these things. Life is not meant to be lived in spreadsheets. Life is not meant to be read inside of a 10Q, a 10K. It's meant to be lived outside, lived with people around you. So here at the Fi Guys, one of the things that I always like to say, and Dominic, you agree with me a lot with this thing, is that you automate it and you simplify it. Complexity is the enemy of progress. There are too many financial advisors, there's too many TikToks, there's too many things that they just make a simple situation so complex and no one ever goes about doing it. Every time that you turn on the computer, if you go to the news and you watch any commercial, every single financial thing is just all this stuff that makes it so difficult. If you break it down to its core, it's how much money you're making, how much money you're spending, that's what you can invest. How we can invest, all of these things, all of those are 100 layers deep. But if you break it down to the core things that you need to do to be quote unquote good with money, it's know yourself, make more money, spend less money, invest the difference. We don't need to make it as complicated as we have.
Yeah, taking the human aspect out of it is a big portion of it, while also keeping the human life in it. I don't know if that makes sense, but you want to get out of its way, but you want to make sure the way it's going is the way that serves you. Hope that makes more sense. So that was pillar number 4, automation and simplicity. And I know a lot of people already have their bills on autopay. I know I got the electric bill on autopay. Get pissed every time they charge me because, live in Arizona and it's hot as heck. But, taking that up a notch, you can really dial in your whole life in a way where it's like, not necessarily set and forget it, but set and then, manage it every week. Just like, hey, look at it, make sure everything's going good still. And because like Chris said, life is meant to be lived, boys. Life is meant to be lived, boys and girls, obviously. But
I can't think of how many people I've met who say like, oh, I'm good with money. Like I'm doing stuff every single day, multiple hours a day relating to money. Yeah. And I'm a financial consultant. I'm a financial coach. I'm a financial advisor. And there's like, how many hours a day are you watching the markets? Are you doing stuff? Like I don't. Like I work on my financial stuff like maybe once a month, maybe once every 3 months. Like my wife, we have our money dates, we have our conversations every week. Like we're doing stuff, but it's not like directly related to money. I wouldn't consider it work. Sometimes just letting the systems run is better, but it's so counterintuitive because in life, if in school, in sports, the harder you work, the better output you typically get. But here in the world of finance, the harder you work, the more you mingle in it, the worse you do. Warren Buffett once ran a test against some of the largest hedge funds in the world versus the S&P 500, where he told these hedge funds, hey, over 10 years, minus your fees, if you can beat the market, I'll donate $1 million or something like that to a charity of your choice. A bunch of people took him up with this offer. At the end of those 10 years, what happened? The market outperformed all of the hedge funds. Now, there were years that the hedge funds were way higher than the markets. There were years that the market went down and the hedge fund went up. All of that's well and good. But when you minus out the fees that the people had to pay to be in those hedge funds, you minus out all the marketing, all the expenses, everything else, just putting it in the market, getting out of its way makes it so much easier. And that allows you to go and live your life. Let's move on to pillar number 5. And this one's really important. Community and conversation. You need to realize the power of not doing this alone and the power of having conversations about money. That's the biggest thing that I want to bring out. That's the reason when we have on guests that we just talk. We're not talking about money. I don't care about your alphas and your betas and your fibia. I don't care about any of that stuff. I care about you as a person and what makes you special. Why did you achieve what you achieved? Because that's what really matters. Because we can take those little golden nuggets and take them back to ourselves and say, what can I do to be a little bit better? Not what sequence of things do I need to do in what particular order to be better, but what can I do incorporated into my schema to be a better person, to be worthy of a person that can make $1 million rather than what do I need to do to get $1 million? How can I be worthy of it? We need to be able to have these conversations. For too long, has talking about money been put into the realm of let's talk about politics and sex? We don't talk about these things at the dinner table. I'm not saying we should talk about politics and sex at the dinner table, but you do need to have the ability to talk about your money. You need to have the ability to have friends, have those close connections that you can talk to openly about money, because there's so often that you can find out new things, new ways of doing things. There's times where Dominic and I would just be talking randomly and we'll be like, oh, hey, you just opened a new insight to me. Because as I was so enveloped in thinking that I knew everything about the world, you saying something stirred a new idea in me that allowed me to save money, to do something like that. You're not an island. You need friends. You need community. All human beings need this. It is a core fundamental drive, probably the core fundamental drive outside of purpose.
100%. There's this quote that I know we're quoting Arnold Schwarzenegger a lot today, but you can call me anything you want, but you can't call me a self-made man, right? And Chris and I love that quote because it's true. We never do anything in life alone, and it's unbelievable what you can accomplish with a community, right? If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with a friend. And that's what Pillar 5 is all about, opening those conversations and finding those people that inspire you. I have a few friends in my friend group. In fact, to be honest, most of my friends are that person for me, where like I can go to them. It's like, let's talk about an idea, a concept. Let's see, how can we improve this? How can we think about this differently? Where can we go with this? And I hope that you're surrounding yourself with people that inspire you and push you to be better. Those are the best kind of friends, not the friends that shame you for trying to become financially independent, not the friends that judge you for not wanting to do X, Y, or Z, right? But with that being said, that was pillar number 5. And Chris, do you have any final thoughts on that?
Yeah. You are the aggregate of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And there's an old story of crabs in a bucket. If you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, crabs will eventually try to climb out of that bucket. But as they approach the lip, other crabs will grab them and drag them down. So the people that you surround yourself with are those crabs in a bucket. You want people that push you up, not pull you down. Or maybe don't even push you up, but elevate you just by being at a higher plane. And then you just try to rise to their level. They're not even trying to push you or pull you. They just are. And you're elevating to be near them. There's a huge reason that every single episode, we end the episode with share the 5 guys with another person. It's not to be vain. It's not to grow our it is to grow our podcast. So yes, it has multiple things, but the biggest reason is that you can't do this alone. In life, there will be suffering. In life, they're going to run up against huge issues. That's true of marriage. That's true of homeownership. That's true of financial independence. It just is. So when you have a community, friends, family, that's true wealth. That's the true ability to help, to have somebody. All the money in the world means nothing if you have no one to share it with, if you have no one that cares about you. So with that, I say we move on to our final segment, what we still believe. Dominic, what hasn't changed for you over the 100 episodes together?
What hasn't changed? Interesting. One thing that hasn't changed for me is my love of financial independence, my love of teaching, my love of learning about financial independence and becoming free. It's so interesting that, we spend so much of our time learning about money, how to multiply it, how to save it, how to grow, all these things, right? And the real goal at the end of the day is to be done with it. I don't want to, I love this topic. We love this topic, right? But at the end of the day, I want to be done with the topic. I want to go out. I want to live life. I want to build my dream home, my dream compound. And, the more we learn about it, the more it kind of reiterates my purpose for becoming financially independent. Sure, selfishly, I want to build my dream house. Sure, selfishly, I would like to have a nice recording studio. Sure. But at the end of the day, I want the people in my life to not feel the stress of money. I think, and maybe viewer, maybe you're this person. Maybe you're not this person. Maybe you know this person. But I always believe that there's a few people in your family that are much better at handling stress than the rest. The weight of life is on their shoulders and they carry it like a backpack. For me, I'm not the best at stress, but I'm pretty good in comparison to the others around me. And I'm trying to get better at it. Financially independence means to me, it means to take away the stress of the ones I love most, right? And part of that stress is the finance stress. How are we going to pay for this? Well, I want to get this, but I don't want to spend this much money. It's like, no, I want to be able to take care of my family as a good man would, right? So for me, my why is to be able to take care of my family, my future family even too. And that's something that's not only not it's never changed, but it's got stronger. The more I learn, the more we dive deep into these heavy topics about, what is money, right? What does it mean to you? Is it energy, money, energy, right? And all these different things. Having a why that's strong enough, that's your North Star. And for me, that's kind of my North Star. So it's good for me to know that throughout this journey of knowledge, my North Star hasn't changed. And I love that. I really love that.
Nice. Is there anything over the 100th episode that you've changed your mind on?
The first one that comes to mind is and you'll remember this one, but so in the early days of our podcasting, we were talking about cars, and I'm going to bring this up, but we were talking about cars, and I said something ignorant, and Chris corrected me, and rightfully so, totally rightfully so. It was such an idiot thing to say, and I was like, "Nah, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're just wrong." And basically, the conversation went like, "Hey, like, Chris said, if once you get your dream car, you're going to want to protect it. You're not going to want to take it out." And my idiot brain, my immature brain at the time, early episodes, was like, no, I don't really value that stuff. I'm not really materialistic like that. I don't really, it's just a car, right? And then as time went on, as I started getting more knowledgeable and more wisdom and more just life experience, and I started to like really start formulating these thoughts and ideas in my mind. I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah, I was wrong. Yeah, no, I definitely don't want my car ding. And for some of you, it's like, duh. But for me, it was like the item doesn't control me. I control the item. I'm not gonna, if it gets dinged, so be it. I'm not gonna let some inanimate object take power over me. And now it's like I've kind of flipped it a little bit, where it's like, no, I worked hard for my stuff. I want to take care of my stuff. I don't want it to get dinged or anything. So that's one of the things. That's like the first thing that kind of comes up. But yeah, do you have some 2 cents on that one, Chris?
Yeah. And what you just said there is both things are true. Yeah, it doesn't represent you, and it does. And you do want to take care of it, right? I remember when we talked about that, we were talking about how sometimes when you go out and you buy things, those things begin to own you. Oftentimes our items begin to own us more than us owning them. And that's what I was talking about, especially when it comes to the car, to your house. They are representations of you. They are not, but we begin to identify with those things as if they are us. So when they get injured, it's like we got injured. When they get hurt, it's like we got hurt. I recently moved, and the moving team that helped us move out there was just awful. They're terrible. They put our stuff in sideways. Some of the things got broken. And as I'm unloading the truck, I'm getting more and more frustrated at all this stuff, and I had to keep on reminding myself, it's just stuff. It's not me. It's just stuff. Everything else can be replaced. Things can be fixed. Holes in things can be patched. It's just stuff. So remember of that thing. So those was some of the biggest things that we learned over the past 100 episodes together. I mean, even more, 200 when you include the 5 Friday feedbacks. But to our listeners, whether you've been with us since episode 1 or you're just joining us today, I want to say thank you so much. This has never been about Dominic and I. This has been about helping real people take control of their finances, but more importantly, take control of their life. Because we all go through life hoping that if I get the money right, everything else will go into play. Everything else will work out. And that's not the way it works. You have to work on all of it simultaneously. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you're not happy, if your kids don't love you, if your wife hates you, your spouse just doesn't want to be near you, none of the money matters. You don't want to be the person that comes home at the end of their life with a pocket full of dollars and a family that doesn't know them. So I ask you, what has been your favorite moment over the past 100 episodes? Please share, leave a review, leave a comment telling us exactly what it is, and join the Five Guys community. We're here trying to cheer each other on, trying to build that pillar number 5, that community, that conversation. This is just our first 100, really 200 episodes. And I'm so excited for the next 100 to 200 episodes. We have so much more stuff in store, so many new ways of looking at things. And as we grow, we're just going to continue to bring that knowledge to you. Dominic, do you have anything else to say before you close this out?
No, I've loved this journey. This journey has been so exciting, so much more fun than I could have ever imagined at the start. And I'm so excited. I feel like we're just getting started. I feel reborn in a way. Like my energy is like, I'm back, man. We're back. We're back. But in turn, we never left. We're here. We are here. We're here to teach. We're here to learn. We're here to explore new topics. And we've got so many great episodes coming up for you guys. I literally cannot wait. I'm foaming at the mouth here. I got rabies out here. I'm excited. I'm super excited. I'm also excited for Friday's episode, right? So if you are new here, on Monday's episode, we do like the full shebang, right? The whole notes on the topic of the week, right? But for Friday's episode, we do a bit of a recap of Monday's episode. And once the recap is done, a short recap, nothing quite like Monday's episode, but a short recap, we do a viewer mailbag where a member of the community writes into us either via email or through our website. And then at the end of the week, we do like a win of the week, right? So I am excited to kind of go over these pillars with you. And I actually have some very interesting questions for you on Friday as well. So I hope that the viewers stick around for that as they have for the last 200 episodes. But no, I'm stoked. I'm excited. And I hope you guys are excited as well. That's going to be it for me. Chris, final thoughts? Anything else? Am I missing?
No, we're just going to get to our action step. And typically we have a solid action step where I want you to go back and do something to what we talked about in the episode. But for this one, our action step does kind of relate, but it's basically the same action step we give you every time. That's to tell somebody about the Fi Guys, to bring someone along for this journey. Remember, pillar number 5 is community and conversation. You want to have friends around you. You want to have family members, people that you can lean on, people that you can talk to about issues that come up in life, wins, losses, anything that's neutral, just someone that you can bounce ideas off of. And they can bounce off ideas from you. So please share somebody that you know, don't know, a friend, a family, a random stranger about the Fi Guys. And we will see you next Friday on Fi Friday Feedback. Thank you so much. I'm Chris. He's Dom. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.